E aí, moçada, tudo bom? Vamos entrando, vamos entrando. Logo mais nós vamos chamar nosso convidado. E aí, moçada, tudo certo? Logo mais a gente vai chamar o nosso convidado. Então, esperem mais uns 3 minutinhos. E aí, moçada, beleza? Ó, o Gilvan tá aí. Grande Gilvan. Tava no FEMUSC 2018, eu acho. Se não me engano. E aí, moçada, vamos entrando, vamos entrando. Logo mais já chamo o nosso convidado aqui. Em 2 minutinhos. Grande Gilvan, saudade, Gilvan. Gilvan toca muito viola e piano também. Deus livre, esse guri aí vai longe. Então, em mais um minuto, eu chamo o nosso convidado aqui hoje. Estamos quase lá. Olha só, até a Hela tá aqui. Oi, Hela, tudo bom? Então, pessoal, vou chamar o nosso convidado, Lech Antônio Uszynski. Chamar ele, vai entrar logo mais. Hello.
Hi,
How,
hello.
how are you?
I'm fine, I'm fine. Thank you for having me. Do you hear me well?
Yes, I hear you very well. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you here. Um, so just as we talked before, so this is the Two Violence channel.
Yes.
We share a lot of contents about the viol. We do a lot of lives, and then we put them on YouTube later, um, which is where people watch it the most.
Yes.
Um, and we have been very fortunate to to have a lot of really great international guests just like you. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a big pleasure.
Yeah, are you in Switzerland right now?
Yes, I'm in Basel. That's basically my hometown.
Hmm.
And it's very hot here. So we have like 36 degrees today.
Really?
Yeah, so we have like really the peak of the summer right now at the moment. But I mean, it's beautiful. At least I don't have anything today. So I'm enjoying the free day.
Oh, that's amazing. Because even though this is a Brazilian channel and all my colleagues are Brazilian, I actually live in West Texas. So
Ah,
we
okay.
we get to we get like over the 40 sometimes because right now it's summer. So
Yeah.
it's also yeah, but at least in Europe, Corona is a little bit more controlled right now, right? So you're able to perform and do concerts and travel, right?
Yeah, so here actually, as I mean, I can talk specifically about Switzerland because here in Switzerland, end of May, we had good news from our government that they tried to make it possible from beginning of June that performances up to 300 people. So it means 300 people in the audience, with the restrictions, obviously, to have the distance of 1.5 meters, and people have to leave their addresses and have to tell their name and so on. So this is actually how it started. And I'm in the field of chamber music, so this was actually a good opportunity for our quartet also to very early start performing again. So for bigger ensembles, orchestras, of course, it's a different story. But there were some organizers, they changed concerts to smaller settings. And we got quite lucky that we could perform already a few concerts until now. And what is interesting is to see that now things changed again, but to the worse direction, because now they actually limited again to only 100 people. So as you can see, there is like the second wave coming, and they try to keep things alive, but they have to limit it again a little bit. Yes.
That's wow. So do you only are you guys only having like chamber music concerts, or like orchestra is just not happening at all still?
I mean, there was one. All the orchestras, most of the orchestra did their last concert of the season, and this was more like a symbolic event. So in the audience, they had a lot of restrictions, and they had to distance the orchestra members from each other and put also like special walls on stage. And I think this was more really a symbolic gesture to see that at least they finished the season and not just said like see you next year or whenever. And
Yeah.
this was, I think, really from this side important to also keep their audience interested and to give a life sign. And we as chamber musicians and also a bit of solo, I think now is the opportunity also to have possibilities to fill the culture scene a little bit with music, because we realized, and I did realize with a lot of musician friends, that the people, the audience actually, they really missed classical music, missed culture, missed live culture. It's amazing. I mean, I was overwhelmed to see so many people in the audience which are really in the risk group. So you could say 60 plus, and they were having no fear from Corona whatsoever. It's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, I'm glad you guys are coming back already, because for us it's still have to wait a little bit more, but I'm
Yeah.
glad that the industry is coming back little by little with all the proper care. Yeah, that's awesome. So would you mind just telling us a little bit about your background and how did you start your musician journey?
Yeah, so I'm from a musician family, so this is actually always a good start.
Yeah.
So my parents are both musicians. My mother is pianist and my father is a viola player. And I have an older brother, he's 6 years older than me, he's cellist. And I actually started to play violin when I was 4 years old, so quite early on. And my first actually wish was to play the cello, because I saw my brother always with the cello and he was sitting, and I saw like, oh, this looks like a comfortable instrument. I want to also sit and play.
Yeah.
But my parents, they really thought that it might be wise to not generate competition in your own family with the same instrument. So they actually handed me a violin, and I fell in love with violin. So this is really something I started early on. And to be honest, what is interesting, because now I'm a violist, so there was a transition phase when I was like 12, 13, and I was preparing for a competition, violin competition, which is like national competitions in Switzerland. And it's two rounds. So there's a regional round and a round of whole Switzerland. And I won the first prize in the regional one. And then I had like 2 months time until the finals. And I remember it was summer, and honestly, I was very lazy. I didn't want to practice the same program for the final. And my father said, look, in 1 month, there's a viola competition, the regionals. let's try this. And I remember my father had a viola on the wall in the studio, which was more like a decoration.
Yeah.
And we actually took down this viola. It was a very nice instrument. It was probably like I think a German viola. And he put strings on, and we did a setup. And I learned in 1 month. I remember Hummel Fantasy and Telemann Concerto. And what was really funny, a month later, I went to the competition. I was the only first prize winner.
Wow.
And then I ended up in the finals of the competition as a violinist and a violist. And because I was the only viola player in this final, they asked me if it's okay if the violin jury stays for the viola competition, because they didn't want to ask a special viola jury to come.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think early on there was a certain affinity and natural. Um, I was drawn naturally to the viola, and also because I've heard as a child my parents at home playing a lot together. So I heard always the sound of viola at home, and I had a I have a beautiful violin of Maggini, still at home. So this is an instrument since I'm 10 years old. I play on it, and it has a very dark sound. So this is something I remember I preferred on the violin also, rather this dark timbre and this dark chocolate sound than this bright, let's say Stradivari sound, or like like the harsh violin sounds. And I think there was already affinity towards this. And yeah, and then since from this moment I actually played both instruments next to each other. And yeah, and later on, I still studied violin. I was fortunate to study with Anna Chomachenko, with Zahar Bron. This was an amazing experience. But next to it, I was always very lucky because my mom, she worked in Freiburg, the music academy, in the class of Wolfram Christ as pianist.
Oh, seriously.
Yeah, so I had private lessons with Wolfram Christ. I had private lessons with Hartmut Rode. I had Kim Kashkasian was my babysitter. It's
Wow.
crazy. And my mom played with basically all the major viola players in her career as a pianist. It's incredible. So I had like really I was so fortunate that also anything I played with my mother together, she had like notes from Bruno Giurana in her scores and from really all the major violists. And I got so many information. So I had kind of like from the education wise, viola wise, I was inspired by many different people and artists. But on the violin side, I did a very conservative education with studies and everything. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I was not aware of your your, and do you still play the violin sometimes, like nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, funnily, I play the violin maybe once or twice a year, and mostly when we play for some small family concert, and then my father prefers to play the viola because violin is too difficult. So we
Oh,
play string trio, for example, or piano quartet. But it's not getting easier, let's say honestly. I mean, there was a moment I could easily change from viola to violin, and within 10 minutes I could play anything on the violin again. And now there is a certain limitation because I mean it's just and also my viola which I play now is quite big, so it's a weird feeling to come back to the violin. But I think it's very good for the education to be able for a certain moment to know both instruments, because I could benefit a lot from my education as a violinist, and also that I played both instruments at the same time. I think also from the technical side and from many different aspects you could profit a lot. Yeah.
why did you say that for you are like the biggest differences technically wise between the violin and the viola?
Well, I think in the viola technique, one of the main importances is for me the right hand, in a way, drawing the sound and literally drawing the sound. And in a violin, it's really often something which is, it depends on the school though, but I mean, I realized it was very focused on the left hand, mostly in the in the violin school. But in the viola school, there where I felt the biggest difference. Obviously, with left hand, you have the vibrato situations where you have to adjust. But before you can't really draw a beautiful sound on the viola with the right hand, and it's the difference of speed, of contact, of really going into the string. This was a really interesting thing to learn, and I think that's also the point where you can difference between when you see somebody taking a viola and thinking, oh, I'm a violinist, I can play the viola, but you hear right away this is a violinist. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's really, there's something missing of this consciousness, and it's when you see, for example, the great Russian artists like Oistrach, both Oistrachs, David and Igor, both could play also the viola. So they could, either of them could play concertante, you know, the viola part, or this Wieniawski pieces together, or whatever, you know, duos or Mozart duos. It was just the awareness that learning also the viola makes you a better sound. So when you, let's say as a violinist, I remember these moments where I practiced 2 hours viola and I went back to the violin. For the first 10-20 minutes, I had again like a big natural sound on the violin, not pressed, but really like this kind of feeling that it's the body weight, it's not pressing on the instrument, it's really like drawing the sound out. And that's why I think it's you can benefit from both sides a lot.
Awesome. That's amazing. And since you're mentioning about how you have been coming back with the quartet um, performances, um, what is your experience in the Stradivari quartet? And how is your let's say your schedule, and how have you been managing that?
Well, we have been one thing, of course, with the quartet at the moment that we are mostly doing local performances. That means in Switzerland. So most of the things abroad are a little bit unsure or cancelled, and we actually really were hoping all the time that any moment it's going to start, or there's going to be the ban going to be lifted from the government, we're going to start right away. And this fortunately actually happened in a very positive way for us. So we really could now in July play a lot of concerts which actually were postponed from March, April. Yeah. And those concerts were actually postponed twice even. Like first a month forward and hoping that things will get better, but then things got really bad. As we remember, like, oh my God, this is really much worse than actually anybody expected. And in a way, at the moment where we got a green light, we tried to really make these performances happen. And obviously in the time of Corona, we didn't have physical contact of rehearsing together. And we had also the process of changing our, or looking for a new second violinist, let's say like this, because our former second violinist, he wants to go his own musical path. And then we had also the moment and time to look actually for somebody, but we were interestingly only limited to candidates within the, you know, Switzerland. But we got extremely lucky, so we found a wonderful new member of the quartet, and she joined us in Corona time. And then already for the new concerts, we could introduce her, and we also played some quintets together with our old second violinist. He then played viola, and then we did some Mozart quintets as a transition phase. Yes. So for us, it was, we used the time, I think, quite wisely, and also for each other, for all the members. I think all of them stayed very active during this time. So we were quite positive, but it was not easy, obviously. Yes.
Yeah, sure, sure. And you have been playing trios also, right?
You mean like string trios?
Yeah, string trios.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a string trio is, I think, as a violist, it's very fun, very much fun, because it gives you then a moment where you really have to be, let's say, show as much equality in the possibilities as a cellist or a first violinist, because you basically play the second violin and the viola part, and you have to be in different shape for this. And yeah, and I very much enjoy this, and also because I have together with Sebastian, that's our former second violinist, we have a really long time friendship, long year friendship, and we always enjoy playing together. So also now in the last concerts, there were like 2 performances where we could play together again. Yeah, and we love to do this. And also Sometimes we have situations where maybe somebody of the quartet cannot play, so we can do some string trios or piano quartets. Yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
that's
That's
always
amazing.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the questions that people have been asking us is that you have won a few competitions, and a lot of people are always interested in knowing how do you prepare for a competition. So would you
Mhm.
mind telling us a little bit about the routine and the process?
Of preparation for competitions.
Yes.
Well, to be honest, I think the competition preparation is already the most important part. For me, the competition part is actually the most unnatural part for a musician because competing against each other in arts is a joke. That's first of all, it doesn't really, you can't count it by numbers. It's not like a stopping time. And so that's why I think for really growing as an artist, the time of really preparing for a competition with really having the mindset to at least getting to the final. So having the program prepared until the finals and not practicing after second round, like, oh my God, I'm in the finals. This sometimes happens actually quite often, I heard from fans, but this process is the most important one. So really, this is one of the parts where I think the learning also, the self-discipline to be able to find the right time frame to realistically be able to learn such a big program, to not come into stress. So if you have really, let's say, big competition, 3 rounds, it's 3-4 hours program. I think it's good to start even a year before, but consistent, because then you end up building an amazing base where you feel stable and not this last minute shock where you kind of like because there's in the last minutes there's nothing you can really improve, I think, and it's only more like a gamble if it's gonna go well or go bad. So treating a competition is rather for me as a target and as a goal, but not primarily to win the competition, but rather to become a better musician, to learn a big amount of repertoire. Because I think most of us never have been able to play more repertoire in their life than before a competition. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
it's often like this. Then suddenly you realize, oh, this I was then really in shape. I could play, like a whole Reger suite. I could play a whole Bach suite. Then I could play a whole Hindemith sonata or a whole Brahms sonata, and then I could play a whole Bartok concerto or Walton concerto. That's quite a lot. And now this luxury I don't have anymore. I mean, now it's more about efficiency and especially about planning well, but being also careful with planning, because sometimes I end up playing in 1 month 10 concerts with completely different programs, and then you have to kind of like really have a base and the reserves, from the energy and from your kind of like experiences which you gain, because there's no time to really practice fully the pieces like you've been able in study times. And yeah.
So how is your practice routine then? If you have like so many concerts and you're traveling and doing stuff, of course that now with Corona things might be different, but like say before Corona, how would you manage your practice routine? Were you able to have a consistent, you know, routine?
Yeah, so my primary goal in Corona time was really to practice regularly, but not too much, but really to try to begin every day with technique. So this was something I missed for a long time, where I thought like it's rather like warming up and playing and practicing. But now I kind of like really started to practice scales, practice also from actually from Shevchik, from Schradik, from Kreutzer etudes, which you can nicely play on the viola too, Campagnoli etudes. And I was setting myself some goals. I was actually doing 3 days, 2 Kreutzer etudes, and then I changed them after 3 days to 2 others. And the goal was not to get the etude in a perfect shape, but rather to like really circle it around, to stay busy. And I think this was really nice for myself to get the time again and to get this opportunity, because this wouldn't have happened without Corona, obviously. And then also what was very nice, I I tried also to kind of like learn new pieces always. So rather bigger pieces or concertos which I haven't played yet, and which might have been always my future goal to be ready to play them in case opportunity comes, and also to discover a lot of small viola works which I've then played with my wife together. We did some small live stream concerts, like private ones, and it was quite enjoyable in this time. But I think it was also important not to really be over productive in a way, because when I now look back, it was from March until June for us, the lockdown. So if everybody would have in March started like giving 200%, you would have been like dead in April.
Yeah.
And I think I found a good balance between music, viola, life, and also nature was beautiful then. It was very sunny, we had good weather. Yeah.
But
But
how did you manage your practice routine like before Corona, especially because now you're getting off Corona, so you're probably gonna go, uh, back to what you did, the things that you did before. So,
mm,
how are you able to maintain in shape, yourself in shape, with so many concerts and things happening?
well, in this case, my routine is basically really like having mostly the discipline to practice slowly. It sounds probably like a cliche, but it really is like this. It works. So when you don't have time, take at least from those pieces which you are supposed to play, take spots and practice them slowly. Because for myself, rather being in a good feeling before a performance, even when I don't have a lot of time, and even maybe if the piece is not at 100%, and I'm honest about this, I feel like it could be better prepared. I think that being well like warmed up, and also having practiced difficult spots slowly, being in a very good state of that everything is in its place. This helped me a lot, and I think this is also something what comes with age, in a way that you realize that panic practicing will not work, and you will really feel that you can actually achieve more by sometimes even forgetting about what you are supposed to play. And like a teacher said once to me, the only thing you have to do before playing a great performance, play 30 minutes slow scales. It's a very famous teacher from Mannheim. He said this, and it really helps. I mean, it's
Hmm.
just about the idea to believe also that you have these capabilities to do it, but you have to just be in your best possible mindset and feeling about the instrument. So this is actually the routine which I use when I don't have time to practice, but I have to perform. Yes. And if you have time to practice, I strongly suggest to go back then to open a book with techniques and really, like something great. I'm sure you saw it. Nobuko Imai posted the
Hmm.
scales. The first thing I did, because I love this kind of things, I screenshotted it, and since 2 days ago, I'm practicing her system of scales. I'm practicing these Tibor Varga exercises. I love it. I mean, I do it now. 2 days for now because it was posted 2 days ago. But my goal is now for the next month. I wrote the date down on my scores to see how far I get. What will be the final tempo, and I write down after each time of practicing it how I felt. If I felt good about this or bad, if I could play it through, just out of curiosity. But I think it's important to keep yourself challenged. It's like working out, you have to always kind of like attack the muscles from the different way. Yeah, to
It's
grow.
it's interesting that you have the habit of uh, writing down how you feel about what you practice. Is that something that you do very often and that you think that helps you?
Well, it's quite new actually since I do it, and I do it actually more often since I have an iPad to practice from. So it's very easy because I can really write down also with colors, and it's
Yeah.
just more about like a short note that I could play it through. I felt good, or I felt a bit tensed in my right arm or left arm. Because it gives you, when you look back, you can really judge the process much better. the problem often is people give up because they think like they don't go forward, you know. And but the thing is, if you look from a distance, or if you would have like something, a written statement where you can look at a month ago, and you would realize, wow, a month ago I wasn't even able to play this and this and this, but now I'm able. But the daily process seems always like a Sisyphus work, that you pull the stone up and it always falls down. And I think it's also about the visualization, that you can understand and feel better about yourself, that you do actually do progress, and the work you put in is valuable, even though it doesn't seem like this, or even if you have a bad day after 20 days practicing, you're still better than in the first day. Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow. I'm actually now excited to go and practice after this.
That's good.
Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah, and you were talking about how the panicking practicing, and how you have been learning how to be more relaxed and more down to earth. But how do you deal with the performance anxiety? Because that's something that I don't think that anyone can run away from.
Yes, that's true. So just as you know, I was one of the really extreme cases of stage fright. Yes.
Really?
Yes, yes. So there was a moment actually in my path of becoming a musician when I was a teenager, where I actually thought about quitting because I couldn't handle it anymore. It was really difficult. Especially in my case, it was showing an extreme tremble in the right hand, and I kind of like, it was like running in circles, and each time on stage again, it was like a um, really feeling that, remembering this bad moment, just thinking about, oh, I'm just waiting for it to start again. I'm just waiting for it to, or memory lapses, when I was kind of like playing a lot of by memory, which now I don't do anymore because I realized it gives me too much stress, and it's not a sign of not being prepared, because there are too many artists playing from scores. It's just rather like a safety net for me, and I can play more free like this. And this is actually, so was out of equation and after a time, because then I decided to play with scores. But the part of being nervous was really something I could get a grip on when I started to put myself even more often in these situations. And when I actually perform often, I get less nervous. When there's like a 2-3 weeks time between performances, I already feel a little bit of nervosity again, and I have to kind of like really prepare myself mentally that, yes, actually you can do it. Remember, then you played it, no problem. Yes. So it's important to kind of like, before a performance, to find a routine for yourself. Yes. And this is actually something which I find very a pity that we don't learn this in school, because we are like sportsmen, athletes, and we should have basically the same treatment. It's about the massages, it's about the mental, training, that we are strong also there. And we don't actually get this information. We are always asked to perform, but it's so complex. And imagine, once you have a bad experience in an audition or in a competition, it really stays. And it takes a lot to overwork it. I think it takes at least few good performances to forget about this moment. Yes, and it can always relapse, it can always return. So for myself, what I really do is that I need 1 hour before a performance. Usually I ask people not to talk to me and not to disturb me. And I have a routine that then I need my 20-30, if I really want to perform at my best, I need 20-30 minutes quietness and time for me to really warm up slowly, like really like basics, just to feel good. Yes. And the rest of the time, I'm just, in myself, I'm looking at the scores, I'm trying really to keep focused and not being distracted. And I think this is important to really find for yourself what works best. Because if you look often, many artists, they kind of like shortly before performance, they are not really calm, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Either inner panic practicing, or there's something else they have to think of. No, I think in this moment you have to treat this moment is this is really like every actually professional person would do it the same in any other profession. It's your time, and you have to really, at the moment you go out on stage, you have to feel like super calm, perfectly warm up, and super confident. And this really works. And of course, still on stage, you will feel this adrenaline and everything, the rush, but it's eventually it will get better. But it takes time. It takes time. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do something like outside of the music world to help you with that? Like, do you do yoga or meditation or something like that? Or
No, I don't. I mean, I know many musicians they do. I do actually the quite opposite. I ride motorcycle.
oh, I
Yeah,
mean that
so
helps,
yeah,
you
I
know.
love speed. I love speed. So it can, but it helps. I'm actually meditating at the moment. I'm driving very fast on some curvy roads. I'm happy. But
Yeah.
to be honest, I had, of course, many people. I remember when I had the troubles, that people were suggesting me doing exercise, breathing exercises, like closing one hole here and then breathing through one. Everything. I tried everything. And at the end, I realized, for me, it's just basically I just need to be more confident about my abilities and just have time for myself. But I do believe in the power of because it's just the path to the goal. It's not the I don't think that it really matters what you do to get yourself in the best possible state. So meditation, yoga, obviously it could work for many people. And don't forget the banana before the concert.
Oh yeah, everyone talks about the
Or chocolate, yes.
oh chocolate also.
Yeah, so this my mom was always bringing me a banana and a chocolate before concerts, and I was usually never hungry before a concert, but actually I then realized I'm less nervous if I eat a banana before concert.
Yeah, no, a lot of people say that, but I have never tried, but I need to at some point.
Yeah, I don't know, it works. It's the magic cure for stage fright now. Tomorrow all bananas are sold out. No.
Yeah, exactly. No more
Yeah.
bananas after this life. That's awesome. And you were also mentioning that with the Corona time you were able to not only practice but to also live your life, right? So what do you do when you don't have your viola in your hands besides riding a motorcycle?
Well, here in Switzerland, we are extremely fortunate that we have beautiful nature. So there was a lot of hiking with the bicycle. So really a lot of time spent outside. And what I'm very proud of myself, I start to read books again because I became a victim of digital content in the last maybe 3, 4 years. And this was really difficult because I ended up in every free time where I was all on travels or in the evenings to watch Netflix and Amazon Prime or whatever. And now I really try to kind of like consciously go back to these things and enjoy this a lot. Yeah, so this actually helped me. And also what I did and was working out. So I bought like a rowing machine for home. And because I heard from so many friends that Corona time is a dangerous time, and because the food is so good, if you are at home, you eat. There's not much else to do. And yeah, so this was a little bit this, and of course family time with my parents. They live close by, and my brother, he's also living like 5 minutes from me, so that's amazing. So I was very lucky that I could really spend time with family together also. Yeah.
Yeah, I can play duels with him. The cello brother,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
mean?
yeah. So exactly. So we this is actually something I grew up with, chamber music and playing together with with family members always. And I've played 12 years with my brother in a piano trio as violinist. So we were quite, you could say, successful. And yeah, so I was actually chamber music was since I was a small kid, always at home, the main music making. And I think this is something which I'm fortunate that until now I can still do it. Yeah.
Plus all the violists with whom your mother played with, right?
Yeah.
And you know, it's we watch a lot of videos on YouTube, so we see a lot of like the pros. So whenever we have a guest like you that we're able to know them, we like to ask, you know, a little bit. So I was just really curious to hear how was your experience, like your lessons and your overall experience with Wolfram Christ.
Hmm. Well, I mean, this is something really where you could feel the focus on the of the teachers, where the light focuses on. So, for example, like teachers like Wolfram Christ, obviously he's very um, coming from this world of being, you know, principal viola in Berlin, and having this idea of preparing you to win an audition. Yes, and this was extremely helpful because he can, in the moment he shows you something, is extremely convincing, but you have to get your work around to understand sometimes how to get there. So it was explanatory, not always the easiest, and it's maybe not the most suitable for everybody. And then, for example, I remember as a contrast with Hartmut Rode in master classes I did with him, this was extremely helpful also because he could explain quite well about the aspects of how things work, you know, and extremely helpful. So you could see this was also a person who went through overthinking everything he said, you know, like that. This would have been also advices he would give himself. I think
Hmm.
that's, as a teacher, this is the most important thing. You have to give advices where you sometimes think like, oh, actually I could do it myself, or I could practice again this way myself. You know what I mean? And you, to be honest, you know, this is all from the viola side, but my father was a violist or is a violist, so I already had at home always this guidance. So I tried always to go also to lessons, not of string players, but for example clarinet players or pianists. Especially, I think wind players were quite interesting, like clarinet players. As for us, you know, when you go to a lesson of a famous clarinet professor, which there was or there is in Basel, François Benda, and you listen to Brahms sonatas. I mean, it gives a complete different perspective of the piece, you know, and then in a way this comes to play, which is the most important thing as I think, especially as a violist, that is about the music making and not about the instrument. Because in different musician fields, you have instrumentalists which are extremely focused on their own instrument. Like, this is the most important part. I want to play as best as possible on the instrument. I think on the long term, this is not really important because you have to find your own voice. And even if there are imperfections, but if you have a really characteristic own voice on the instrument, you will be heard. And especially in these times, there's no need for one more person who plays something faster or more in tune. You know what I mean. So I
Exactly.
would prefer things to go back in this direction. That, you know, that it's the phenomenon of Bashmet, let's say. That obviously, you know, you hear Bashmet, and I mean, this was one of the first violists where I thought like, wow, I'm in love with Bashmet's sound. Everybody's in love with Bashmet's sound. It's his sound who makes you like, you know. And then you go to a live concert of Bashmet, and then you hear him play, and then, you know, you've heard the piece maybe played better, but then he plays a few things like this that you are like, wow, you know, you forgive him everything else what happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's the goal. And when you listen to really old recordings, they're already amazing, you know, from the also from the technical side. And I think this was a different mindset, but still, it's just not. This is in the main goal, and it's really it's hard to tell because people say like there are no great artists compared to like the golden age, you know.
Hmm.
I mean, let's say specifically about violin players. This would be a good situation. I mean, is there anybody who was reaching the same heights like Oistra, like Milstein? You could argue about this. I think they are, but it's just much more harder to kind of like recognize this genius in this world. There's much more competition, and it's really interesting. I mean, because you can't really say that there's there are non-instrumentalists which are that good like the, you know, like the past ones. Just completely different.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know this was violin, but what was your experience with Anna Chumachenko? Because you looked very excited when you mentioned her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was, you know, I was excited also because I was 15 when I got into her class, violin class, and she was the reason I had to go out of school. I mean, the like Lyceum, the school where the normal school.
Oh.
She
Hmm.
said like, I will take you as a student only if you skip school without finishing it, the matur or abitur, I don't know how we call matura. Yeah. And I was obviously very excited about this. So I was 15, I was already full-time student. All my friends were 18, 19, and I had a great time. Yeah. And she was extremely nice as a teacher because she could be like, you know, like a mother, like also, or like a grandmother sometimes, just from the way she was nurturing you. And she was really extremely helpful and sensitive in the process. And I was in a very difficult age. I was, you know, as 15 years old, I had a lot of self-doubt, and she really gave me a lot of confidence. But I wasn't also maybe fully there as a student to take advantage of it, you know. So this is the only thing I'm maybe not happy about, that I could have really used the time better because there were too many distractions outside, obviously with school and with friends. But she was extremely, you know, the way also she was systematic, but she was understanding. She didn't have this kind of like Russian school system where she shouted at you, but she could get very mean. She could. I mean, she could like really make you look at you that your blood would freeze. You know, it was uncomfortable, but you knew inside, you know, your heart that she's actually caring about you. That's the only reason she's maybe a bit more direct. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Since I don't want to keep you here forever, and I know that Instagram cuts it when it comes to an hour, so
Okay.
I would just like to ask you while we ask everyone at the end, which is I know that things in Europe are coming back, but you know in Brazil we are still kind of behind. Well, we're still like in quarantine. Even here in the United States, we're still in quarantine, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
South where I live,
Yeah.
because people are just, anyways. Um, and the thing is, a lot of people they're not able to play concerts. They're not able to. We're now little by little coming back to concerts, but a lot of people just stayed a lot of time without playing concerts. A lot of people were not able to have lessons. Universities canceled classes. Some people don't even have access to the internet, like at home, to be able to, you know, have video lessons. So we basically created this channel as a tool to motivate people,
Mm-hmm.
the viola community, and actually the entire musician community, because we have a lot of people from other instruments that follow our content. Um, so what would be your advices and suggestions for to keep motivated in these Corona times, especially because even though you guys are now coming back, I'm sure that like 2 months ago you were probably
Yeah.
in the same situation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's one word which comes into my mind, and it's structure. Structure is something which is, I think, absolutely necessity, yes, because without, what was really the most difficult for me, and I think for everybody, was this uncertainty, the uncertain, how do you say uncertainty? I don't know. Being
It's hard for
uncertain,
me.
yes,
Uncertainty.
yeah,
Yeah.
being uncertain about the future, and this is really hard. So if you don't create by yourself some kind of like goals or structure, or like I did, I previously I talked about, let's say, about the Kreutzer things that I kind of like told myself every 3 days I change. This is for yourself, yes, I know, but it's sometimes difficult to maintain this if you look forward and you think like, what am I doing it for? Is there any future now in the last, you know, in the next few months? What am I going to do? I mean, it's from all the signs. It's from being not able to perform. It's from not having the right guidance in your studies because maybe the schools are not working properly yet. And also, of course, the financial situation, which is, I think, a big thing. If you're kind of like under pressure financially, it's always very difficult to perform and to get this out of your head. And you know, I had a friend who he's from Basel, and he didn't get any kind of like help, you know. And I talked to him, and interestingly, what was really interesting, he said like that at certain point he just felt he needs to do something, which he went out on the street to play. And he said like he used to do this like many years ago when he was still a student, but he never earned that much money with it. But this time people were really giving a lot of money because he could feel that people are hungry for art and they missed it, you know, the live music. So I think why not taking things into your own hand and finding at least some kind of like spots, or thinking like, okay, next month I do a small concert in a public place, or you know, maybe asking some people, could I do a live stream concert for you, you know. I mean, you need this kind of like targets, and they help you to keep you motivated, plus they might generate also some kind of like income, which I think is important to, because at the end it's also a profession and it has to feed us. And I mean, I've been reading posts from people which said like, okay, it's enough, I'm studying something else now. It's really crazy. So, and you know, I'm thinking, okay, so I can understand, but I think it's not the right way to go, because first of all, this what happens now is such a unique event which might, you know, take still like 1-2 years to go through with everything economically and stuff. But it's not, I don't think it's gonna like happen within the next 10-20 years again in this kind of like, or the world will learn from it now at least, you know. And what I've seen from the people, as I said, people miss arts, people miss concerts, and people want music. So as I said, why not ask? Maybe there is a place for elderly people, like we have, you know, people can go play there. You never know, you know, just for being busy. And that's why structure, I think, is a good word to keep in mind, and to learn, being also self-disciplined. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And so, thank you so much for being here. I think there were many things that I was excited to hear. It was an honor to have you with us for these 50 something minutes. So thank you so much for spending so much of your time with us. And everyone, make sure that you follow him on social media. Make sure you're still teaching lessons online, right?
Exactly. So this what I did also during Corona. I actually put on my website a possibility to book lessons, with, you know, like with a calendar, and it's everything automated. So I get like an email that somebody booked a lesson, and it's automatically in my calendar. And some people did use this opportunity, and I strongly, you know, invite you all, if somebody wants to have a lesson with me. And there is, I think, still a code with this Viola 60
Hmm.
written with these numbers, which gives you 60% off the first lesson. So I think, you know, it's, for me, it's always a great pleasure to give something to the young musicians from my young knowledge. I mean, I'm still very young, so but I mean, maybe I can help. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I'm sure you can help. I'm sure you can help. You're awesome. A lot of people in Brazil are fans of yours. Um,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, a lot of people know you. We are we were really excited to have you here. So thank you so much for everything. And I hope
Yeah,
you have a rest of your evening, a good evening.
yeah, thank you so much. I wish you a wonderful afternoon, and let's keep in touch. And yeah, and really thank you for having me, and all the best.
Yeah.
And stay strong, stay healthy, and practice the viola.
Thank you. We will. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Bye bye.
good. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
É isso aí, moçada. Muito obrigado pro pessoal que ficou aqui com a gente. E fiquem ligados para nossa próxima live no dia 4 de agosto. Então, dia 4 de agosto teremos nossa próxima live. E vai ser muito massa. Então, muito obrigado a todo mundo e vejo vocês na próxima.